Right now, somewhere in your financial life, there is a number you are not looking at directly. Maybe it is the balance on the mortgage statement you file without reading. Maybe it is the car payment that comes out automatically so it never quite registers as a choice anymore. Maybe it is a combination of things that individually feel manageable but collectively represent a weight you are carrying into a future that is closer than it used to be. And the question nobody asks you directly, the one that actually matters, is this. If your paycheck stopped tomorrow, how long before that weight became a crisis? Because that is exactly the question retirement answers. Not in theory, not on a spreadsheet, in real life, on a fixed income, in a market that does not care about your timeline. And the people who figured out the answer before retirement arrived, not after, are living a fundamentally different kind of life than the people who arrived at the finish line still carrying what they started with. Here is the number that should reframe everything. According to the Employee Benefit Research Institute, only 23% of Americans aged 65 to 74 are completely debt-free at retirement. 23%, which means more than 3/4 of people cross that finish line still making payments on houses, on cars, on things they bought years ago that are long gone, but still showing up on a monthly statement. And before you file that statistic under things that happen to other people, the research also shows that most of those people did not plan to retire with debt. They expected to be done. Life just kept moving the timeline. This video is not about making you feel behind. It is about showing you the specific sequence that the people in that 23% used to get there, and what the data and their own words reveal about what debt-free retirement actually feels like from the inside. Because the gap between retiring with payments and retiring without them is not just mathematical. It is the difference between retirement as freedom and retirement as management. And that difference starts with decisions you can make right now. Before we get into the sequence, if this is the kind of content that replaces financial anxiety with a clear path forward, hit subscribe. One video every week. No sponsored products, no affiliate noise. Just the real framework. Now let's get into it. Meet two couples, both in their mid-60s, both living in similar homes in similar neighborhoods, both receiving approximately $4,000 a month combined from Social Security. On paper, they look nearly identical. In practice, their retirements feel nothing alike. The first couple, call them James and Patricia, paid off their home at 61, 4 years before retirement. They drove their cars until the wheels were done, bought replacements in cash, and arrived at 65 with zero monthly debt obligations. Their fixed monthly expenses, taxes, insurance, utilities, groceries, run to approximately $1,800. Their $4,000 in Social Security covers everything and leaves them with over $2,000 every single month in pure discretionary income. They have not touched their investment portfolio in 2 years. It just sits there growing. When James needed a new roof last spring, $11,000, he wrote a check and did not lose a night of sleep over it. When Patricia's sister needed help with an unexpected medical bill, they helped without having to calculate whether they could afford to. Their retirement is not wealthy by any conventional measure. It is free. And free turns out to feel like wealthy. The second couple, call them David and Sandra, arrived at retirement with a mortgage they refinanced at 58, a car payment Sandra took on at 62 because the old one finally gave out, and a combined monthly debt obligation of $2,200 sitting on top of their basic living expenses. Their Social Security covers their debt payments and their basic costs, barely. Their investment portfolio, which is slightly larger than James and Patricia's because they invested the money they did not put toward debt payoff, gets touched every single month for the gap. Every market dip makes them nervous in a way that goes beyond numbers. Every unexpected expense is a calculation. Every month requires management. Their retirement is not a disaster, but it is not free either. And the distance between those two things, free and managed, is the real cost of the debt they are still carrying. But here's where it gets interesting. The math behind that distance is more concrete than most people realize. Using a standard 4% withdrawal framework, every $1,000 in monthly debt payments increases the portfolio size you need to retire comfortably by approximately $300,000. Read that again. $1,000 a month in debt, a modest mortgage payment in most markets, requires an additional $300,000 in investments just to sustain it in retirement. David and Sandra's $2,200 monthly debt obligation means they needed roughly $660,000 more in their portfolio than James and Patricia just to reach the same level of financial comfort. They did not have that. Almost nobody does. Which means the debt is not just a payment, it is a permanent tax on the retirement they built. So how did James and Patricia get there? Not through exceptional income. James spent 30 years as a high school history teacher. Patricia worked part-time in hospital administration after their children were born. Their combined peak income never exceeded $110,000 a year. They got there through a specific sequence, a deliberate order of financial operations that compressed their debt elimination timeline without requiring them to sacrifice everything in the process. The sequence started with the smallest debt first, not the highest interest rate, the smallest balance. This is the approach behavioral economist Richard Thaler's research validated. The psychological momentum of eliminating a debt completely, seeing a zero where there used to be a number, produces a behavioral reinforcement that keeps the process moving in ways that pure interest rate optimization does not. James and Patricia cleared a small personal loan in year one, then a car. Then Patricia's remaining student loan from a graduate certificate she completed in her 40s. Each payoff freed up a monthly payment that immediately redirected toward the next target. The payments compounded not just mathematically but psychologically. By the time they attacked the mortgage, they had 3 freed-up monthly payments adding to every extra principal contribution. The house that looked like a 20-year commitment when they were 50 became a 10-year project. But here's where it gets interesting. The mortgage decision is where most financial conversations stall, and where the comment sections of videos like this one reveal the clearest audience consensus. The debate sounds logical. Why pay off a 3% mortgage when you can invest and earn 10%? Keep the debt, capture the spread, retire with a larger portfolio. It is mathematically coherent. And for a specific type of person, someone with iron emotional discipline, a genuinely stable income, and absolute certainty they will not touch the invested money during a market downturn, it can work. But here is what the data from actual retirees consistently shows. The couple with the paid-off house and the smaller portfolio almost universally reports higher retirement satisfaction than the couple with the larger portfolio and the ongoing payment. Not because the math favors them, in many cases it does not, because of something the spreadsheet cannot capture. A Decivil 70, with 80 likes in a comment section full of debt-free retirement stories, said it clearly. The mortgage had a low rate and the math said keep it, but they paid it off anyway. Because the hassle of a monthly payment, the fixed obligation on a fixed income, the psychological weight of owing something on the place you live. Those costs are real even when they do not show up in a calculation. A Charles May 3673 took the cleaner path. Paid off the house at 52. Redirected what had been the mortgage payment directly into 401k contributions. Maxed them out for 10 years. Retired at 62 with no debt and a portfolio that 9 years later still has not required a single withdrawal beyond Roth conversions and charitable donations. That is the sequence working exactly as designed. Eliminate the debt, capture the freed cash flow, deploy it into assets, arrive at retirement with both. The sequence applied to your life right now looks like this. List every debt you carry in order of balance from smallest to largest. Make minimum payments on everything except the smallest. Attack the smallest with everything you can redirect. When it is gone, take that full payment and add it to the attack on the next one. Do not stop, do not redirect, do not let lifestyle inflation absorb the freed cash flow. The first payoff takes the longest, each one after it goes faster. And somewhere in the middle of that process, usually around the 3rd or 4th payoff, something shifts. It stops feeling like sacrifice and starts feeling like momentum. Like each payment you eliminate is buying back a piece of your future that you did not know you had sold. The mortgage is last because it is largest. But by the time you reach it with multiple freed payments compounding into extra principal contributions, the timeline compresses faster than any calculator suggests. James and Patricia attacked their mortgage with 4 additional monthly payments on top of the standard payment for 9 consecutive years. The bank expected them to finish in 21 years. They finished in 11. But here's where it gets interesting. There is one more dimension to debt-free retirement that the financial planning conversation almost never addresses. And it is the one the comments reveal as the deepest truth about why people pursue it so deliberately. It is not about the monthly expenses, it is about optionality. Sewell Benerville 7, 57 years old and recently laid off, summarized it in 2 sentences. I am debt-free. I can just call it quits if the job market does not fit my desires. That is the real prize, not the lower expenses, not the freed-up cash flow. The ability to make choices based on what you want rather than what you owe. Debt-free retirement is not just a financial position. It is a negotiating stance with every institution, every employer, every unexpected life event that tries to take your choices away from you. Sandra and David do not have that. When David's company offered early retirement packages last year, he could not take it. The math did not work with the mortgage. He is still there. James retired the moment he wanted to, not when the calendar said he could, when he decided he was ready. That gap, between retiring when you want to and retiring when you can afford to, is the most expensive thing debt ever costs anyone. And it never shows up on a statement. 2 couples, same neighborhood, same Social Security income, completely different retirements. Not because one earned more or invested better or got luckier, because one followed a specific sequence. Smallest debt first, momentum compounding into the next, mortgage last, freed cash flow redirected without exception, and arrived at 65 owing nothing to anyone. The sequence is not complicated, it is just deliberate. And deliberate, applied consistently over a decade, produces outcomes that feel almost unfair to the people who spent that same decade making minimum payments and hoping things would work themselves out. But here is the question that nobody asks until it is almost too late. At what point in your working life does the debt-free sequence become impossible to complete before retirement? Is it 50? 55? Is there a specific number, an age, a balance, a combination of both, where the math stops working and the strategy has to change? Because that answer is different for everyone, and most people do not know where their line is until they have crossed it. That is exactly what the next video breaks down.